Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in learning, unpacking, examining, imagining one new Chinese expression a day. Okay, yesterday we talked about 损益表. That is Chinese way to make it obvious what's the purpose of income statement is about. It's to list out all your losses and your gains and to have a final count. Are you positive or negative by the end of the day? And the sequence of characters matters because 损益, when we say it this way, the emphasis is on is on the gain at the end of the day, versus we didn't say 益损表. That means you're going to gain, but after all, you're going to lose again. So the hope of 损益表 is after all the losses, finally you make the gain. Okay, today we continue with 损人不利己. 损人不利己, as you can see, this is 5-character Chinese expression. It's not that time honored as most of our 4-character Chinese expressions. So this is an expression that I grew up with when I was in school. I heard it a lot, probably as a way for teachers to encourage students to be considerate to other people's. Don't put yourself in the way of other people so that you harm others, but at the same time, it doesn't really benefit you either. So this is the expression, 损人不利己. Okay, 损, we have 5-finger hand symbol, and we solved the mystery of why the middle finger tipped to the right, because we have another character that's similar looking, that means fur or hair, especially animal hair. It looks similar. To differentiate the two, somebody add the tip of the middle finger. Toward the left, that means the hair. Toward the right, that means human hand. Okay, so the right is cookware, ancient cookware, that with some carvings on the side, and then these 2 little feet are the stand of the cookware. And this horizontal oval shape is this aerial view that you can see from the top of the cookware. I mean, at least that's some scholars' imagination, somebody else's imagination. We couldn't tell what that oval shape is in relationship to the bottom one. But the bottom one, it means the cookware or the bronze or metal thing. So the whole thing, okay, this is an area view. Okay, so this is part of it, just a different angle of looking at the same thing. And that cookware was used as a unit of measurement to count how many pieces of the cookware. And then it extends to any kind of wares or any kind of tools. That can be useful, be part of the population or a part of the resources that you can command as a nation. And then the 5-finger hand symbol, then that means the manpower. So this is stuff power or the stuff. This is humans. Both of them are resources necessary for the economy of the country or the nation. Actually, nation state was a later concept. So back then, as these are resources that would be considered as useful for the ruler back then. Okay, so eventually these resources, because they can be diminished or used or worn off eventually. So these are regarded as expendables, something like that. And eventually it means diminish, reduce. And then in this context, reduce others. In Chinese calculation, if you reduce others, that is you're harming others. 损人, so make other people lose. This is the original meaning. So, okay, others actually would just use 人. 人 is a generic Chinese human. It's a 2-leg standing structure. And you can see contemporary 人 is super simplified, just symmetrical looking, this left stroke, right stroke, 2 strokes made up of a person. But the ancient ones, it almost looks like an English letter R. It has a shorter side and a longer side, straighter one versus curvier one. So make it more visually interesting, almost reflecting human nature better, because we're not exactly symmetrical. We have at least the 2 parts two sometimes opposing sides within us. So that's a Chinese ancient way to render what is considered a person. So the person a lot of times is not a self-referral. When we say person, 人, or talking about general terms, just people or humans. And so in this case, because we have 人 and 己 coexisting in this expression, so this is 人 means it's non-self, because otherwise we don't need to have two different characters in the same phrase, right? So this then in turn translates into others. Okay, 损人不利己. This 不 is negation. Negation always negate the action after it. So we always have this negation before the verb. Okay, negation came from, this is the benchmark. The horizontal line, a lot of times in a frame of Chinese characters, if you see horizontal line high above of there, oftentimes it signifies the sky. And that's the first reading by scholars. This is the sky, and then a bird shooting up, trying to reach the limit of the sky. I mean, it sounds poetic, but it's not exactly convincing, like a white bird kind of having such an opening mouth or something, the beak looking like that. It doesn't exactly look like a bird. And also this bird structure isn't shown in other types of Chinese, at least as far as I can see. I haven't seen anything that's saying this structure is actually a bird. So that's not convincing to me. So I came up with a new theory. Chinese with this arch thing and with this vertical line, this pronounced as a root means enter. So the enter, it's a little bit abstract. To express enter. Here, the arch thing, that means the original space. And then the pointy, almost like a needle looking thing, means punctuating, like breaks through some boundary between the original space and the new space. So this is going into the new space. And the first horizontal line for, in this context of, in combination with this enter symbol, that means we're looking as the benchmark of this original line. And then we have this entering motion, or at least that's a little bit abstract indication of we're going to a new space. And then this big arch thing, even if it looks like a drapey facing downward gravity, right, pointing, but I read it as an indicator. So indicator almost in contemporary symbol use of our contemporary language or symbols, that's almost like an arrow. We use a line with an arrow, so that's somebody invented and it catch on, right? A stick with us. So that's the way contemporary people communication, we use this arrow pointing thing. We just directly use the arrow. So this arch thing was the ancient language version of that arrow, except we don't even draw the arrow point. We just have, you can regard it as this line was supposed to be horizontal, kind of an arrow that make a cross or intersect with this vertical line. And that means it want to draw your attention to this vertical line, which is the new space that we're talking about. And then to make it, I guess, visually more balanced or interesting, the horizontal line kind of drape down as if it's pulled down by the gravity. In any case, the arrow, the ancient indicator arrow symbol is crossed with this vertical line. And that means the new space, that's the indicator is pointing to. So it's a new space that we're talking about, not the original, the benchmark line over here. So in that sense, by transitioning from new space and staying like pointing the arrow at the new space, that's a negation of the original space. So so it's like you're departing from the original one and you enter into a new space, like a new page of your life or something like that, right? And then we can attach all kinds of meanings to that. But this negation of the original, that's the negation it came from. Okay, 利. There we go. We see the left pointing tip here. But okay, the whole left standing structure means crop. The reason why it's crop is simply because we have this left pointy tip over there. Because if we remove this part, the rest of the thing means tree. And the reason it's tree is because we have this trident looking thing. This thing is grass, and that's easy to understand, right? That's the simplest possible way to express it is a plant. It is a plant with a stem in the middle and with some leaves on the side, right? And it's kind of symmetrical. That's the simplest way to express it's a growing thing. It's a plant, and then this big arch over there simply means it has a tall stem, so it's not so close to the ground. I call it a spacer, but it could be viewed as an indicator as well. So except that it's pointing downward toward the earth, but it could be an indicator to emphasize the stem part, because we have to explain it, I find myself, I have to go through layers and layers of meanings of why we have the symbol over here and there. Because we have a whole group of symbols come together, and there are times things can get confusing, right? So this means grass or plant. And when we have this plant have a tall stem, and we have an indicator like in an arch shape right now to emphasize the stem, that means a tall standing plant, which is the tree. The emphasis is on the stem, the trunk of the tree. Okay, so now we have this tall standing plant with another indicator that's pointing toward the left. That means the crops or the plant bear fruit or seed that it's draping down. So this is kind of a drapey, or at least an indicator to say there's something growing as a result of the plant. And that's growing something. It's what's useful for humans use consumption. And so that whole image of this plant, and with a tall stem and with this tip pointing downward, means it's what's the word, harvesting, or it's coming to fruition, that's draping down. So this whole thing means crops ripe, ready to be harvested. Okay, and indeed the right side symbol means knife, and that is what's used as a harvesting tool to cut. So I don't know, I never worked on a farm, so I would imagine people would use sickles, right, or long knives to cut the stems off as the harvesting motion. So a knife next to the crop. How come it become benefit? Okay, we can read it in several ways. One is we need a sharp knife to cut effectively crops. I guess this can be felt most strongly by people who actually did the work before, so that the sharpness of the knife really made a huge difference by how fast you can go through that field. And also in harvesting, this is the least I can imagine that in harvesting season, you want to be able to finish cutting across the whole field in the fastest way, right? Because weather may change and it may ruin the year's work, right? So in that sense, having a sharp knife is super important. So placing a knife next to a ripe crop signifies that this is the level of sharpness expected that's good enough to cut the harvest. So that the sharpness is one deduced the meaning of this character. And the plant, I guess, because the whole motion of cutting through the field have a harvest is to benefit from the crops itself. So in that sense of cutting through, you can imagine with emphasizing the cutting, or we can emphasize the crop itself. So the crop as the main product of agrarian society, right? That's the year-long work. That's an indicator, or that's what's most important in this frame to see, to show that we're benefiting from our work, that we're having that we're having a harvest. So you can read it in two ways. That either it emphasizes the kind of sharpness for that knife, or it emphasizes the benefit at the end of the year from the crop, the harvest. And so this character can mean two different things, at least from this combination of symbols. Okay, 己, we have this a little bit zigzag. So Chinese characters mostly are like, you have horizontal, vertical, right? Occasionally you have arch thing, but this twist and turn is not that common. So when you see twist and turn, a lot of times people interpret it as a strip of rope. Okay, strip of rope. Why rope was eventually used to indicate self? My little interpretation is, okay, life is like a multi-thread thing, and it's messy. It's hard to sort things out. And so your mission through life, besides this zigzag, way of life, is to rope things together, to kind of tie all the threads together to make one bundle. So you're, in a sense, the bundler of whatever you're handling in your life. So that's the expectation, and that's the language super abstraction of what's expected of self. Like, you are the one that comes in to rope things together. Okay, so harm others, not self. Now we have the second page. I simply removed the negation word here. Then it becomes 损人利己. It means you do harm others, but at the same time, instead of not benefit yourself, you're benefiting yourself. So 损人利己 simply means it's selfish. You try to do something for your own benefit, but you may harm other people. So that's 损人利己. In this phrase, we're talking about 损人不利己. So actually, it's to discourage you from being selfish. The negation is put in there oftentimes to say, like, you won't benefit from it because you're harming others, but at the same time, you're really not benefiting yourself either. It's a lose-lose situation. So anyways, I put the traffic picture over there to show, it's a society. People come in, have their own lanes, they have their own goals, destinations, and we're all coexisting on this planet. And it's very it's very common that we somewhat, for example, share the lane, right? We have to share resources or share space with other people. And this decision-making of how you can coexist with others so that you don't do this lose-lose. You don't incur yourself or call for such a lose-lose situation. So that's 损人不利己. Okay, cashing to the tendency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you next day.